I have a question in the chat here, and the question goes, are there any tips to keep a conversation going? I'm going on a trip with a girl I've been dating for 4 months, and I'm scared the conversation can get boring. Well, for one, if you've been single 4 months, ideally that means you've had enough exchanges by now to where you can kind of bounce off of other stuff you guys have talked about previously to continue conversations in that vein, all right? But here's an interesting answer to that, okay? Is that, especially if you're an introvert, we get very caught up in the idea that if we're not talking or saying enough, that the woman on her side is going to start to see us as boring or start to think like, he seems so nervous around me, like maybe we shouldn't be dating or whatever. And here's the truth. I have found that sometimes it's actually better to bask in silence. And sometimes it's actually better to wait for her to come up with conversation. And sometimes the answers you give to things are going to be short and sweet. And also, women typically like to talk about themselves. So it's actually better to like be the one that's going to be a listener and let them be the ones to talk. Because if you ask a good enough question, women are going to tangent for like 10 or 20 minutes just talking about something. You like the joke of like, like Chris Rock told us years ago, he said, ask a woman how her day was. How was your day is a 20-minute conversation. And sure enough, all the women that I've dated across the board, they come home from work, hey babe, how was your day? Boom, I'm now engrossed in a 20-minute conversation about the things they did at work, about who they talked to, about some beef that they had, about how they feel about their boss doing a certain thing, about what they had for lunch. Oh, also note, almost every woman that I've dated usually asks me, hey, what did you have for breakfast? Hey, what did you have for lunch? Hey, what did you eat today? And for the longest time, I was like, this is the most mundane question. Like, why is she so interested in what the freak I'm eating? But the reason that they ask is because women want to know all about you. And so that means that they're willing to come up with any kind of conversation that they can to get you to answer questions so they can know a bit more about you. So all that to say, don't be so in your head about every conversation you have having to be a world-building, relationship-connecting conversation. I know as introverts, we really thrive on meaningful conversation. And we think that if we ask a nonchalant, random question that's not meaningful, it's not going to be a deep enough conversation for us to care. Dude, the woman just wants to be asked anything because she just wants a guy that is seemingly interested in any aspect of her life. Even something like mundane. Hey, you could ask her, hey, what made you choose that shoe color over like another color? She will go on a 5-minute tangent about how teal is her favorite color. Now she always thinks it matches well with her eyes and her skin tone, and how she used to have this other color that she wanted to wear, but then she realized it didn't really match. Like, women will go on tangents for days if you let them, all right? Now, with that said, I understand it can still be hard to come up with conversations. And honestly, if I had known this was going to be a question, I would have gone in my car, because I have a book in my car that I keep in my glove compartment, right? And it's a book it's called like 400 different questions to ask, whatever. And it's either 400 or like thousands or something. But there are books you can get out there that are just be like question books, like X amount of questions to ask, whatever. And it'll have sections that range from like politics to sex stuff to personal relationships to, family history. And you can literally on a car trip, like just open the book and say, hey, babe, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to just each flip through. You're going to pick a question. I'm going to answer it. And then you're going to answer it. And then I'll pick a question. So you have to have her open the book so you can like just kind of randomly flip through and pick a question. But then I'll pick a question and then you answer it and then I'll answer it. And that could be a 3-hour trip. Like I've literally done that with women where it ended up being like 2.5 to 3 hours of interesting conversation where this book is helping me to come up with questions and I'm getting interesting answers from her that allow me to ask follow-up questions and also allow me to really delve into who she is and what she likes, which can then be used for later on dates and surprises and stuff like that. So all that to say, don't be so worried about how much conversation you have to have. Don't be afraid if at times in the car, you're not talking to each other. That is bound to happen. Like if you're in a relationship long enough, you're going to have a long car ride where both of you are saying nothing. And ideally, you've built up the relationship enough there to where you feel connected and it's comfortable. But like I said, those kind of books can actually help facilitate conversations. So hopefully this helps you out.
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high class man. You a high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high